All right, today we're jumping into a real spiritual mystery. It's a story about one of the Buddha's most brilliant disciples, a man who made a choice so radical, people have been talking about it for over 2,000 years. So that's the big question, right? Why would a holy man, someone known for his incredible beauty, choose to completely change his body like that? It just goes against everything we think we know about spiritual discipline. To figure this out, we've got to investigate the man himself and understand what made him so special to begin with. So let's get into it. Who was this guy? His name was Mahakaccayana. And, his superpower, the thing that really made him a legend, wasn't his looks, it was his mind. He was known above all else as the master explainer. I mean, the Buddha himself recognized Kaccayana as the absolute best when it came to breaking down the Dhamma, the deep, profound truths of his teachings. When the Buddha would say something incredibly concise and powerful, it was Kaccayana who could unpack it for everybody else. He made the difficult stuff simple and the abstract stuff totally accessible. And there's a great modern way to think about this. It's like if the Buddha was Google search, giving you that perfect, direct answer, bam, Kaccayana was Wikipedia. He gave you the whole article, all the context, the history, the connections, everything you needed to really get it. He was the great expander of knowledge. So to really get a handle on just how brilliant he was, we're going to open up a few case files, so to speak. We'll see how he made the famous middle path crystal clear, how he used pure logic to win a huge debate, and how he took these ideas to places that had never heard them before. Okay, first up, the middle path. You've probably heard of this one, right? It's a huge concept in Buddhism, this idea of finding a way to end suffering by avoiding extremes. But for a lot of people back then, that was just too abstract. What does it actually mean to walk that path day to day? And this is where his genius just shines. He didn't just rattle off a catchphrase, he turned it into a practical 4-step guide you could actually use. Step 1, just recognize the things you're attached to. Step 2, see how that attachment creates this feeling of craving. Step 3, understand that this craving is what's actually causing your suffering. And once you see that, the final step becomes obvious. You have to release the craving to be free. He made philosophy into a to-do list. Brilliant.
Okay, so he could make complex ideas simple for followers. But what about for skeptics? Let's look at case file 2, the Brahmin debate. When he traveled to this new region, he was immediately confronted by a group of priests who had very different ideas about how to be a good person.
So the priests are like, hey, how can anyone get purified without our fire ceremonies and rituals? But instead of just quoting scripture back at them, Kaccayana uses pure, simple logic. He says, hold on, let's not focus on the external act, let's look at the internal source. He argued that sin isn't some stain you wash off, it's born from your intent. It comes from greed, from anger, from delusion. Get rid of the intent, he said, and the rituals don't even matter. He totally won them over with just undeniable reason. All right, so the man was brilliant, no question. But that brings us right back to the central mystery of his story, a problem that had nothing to do with his mind. It was all about how he looked. And it's kind of hard to wrap our heads around this, but apparently Kaccayana was so radiant, so incredibly beautiful and noble looking that people who had never even seen the Buddha would meet Kaccayana and just assume he was the enlightened one. And this wasn't just a funny little mix-up, it was becoming a real problem. And this whole situation finally boiled over with one key incident. Picture this. A rich guy is waiting to give an offering to the Buddha. He sees Kaccayana walking at the front of the group and is just blown away by how noble he looks. The man immediately kneels and makes his offering, convinced he's in the presence of the master. Well, a few moments later, the real Buddha arrives. The man was absolutely mortified. But for Kaccayana, it was a turning point. He felt this deep, painful remorse that his own face had become a spiritual distraction. He realized that his own appearance, something he couldn't control, was actually getting in the way. It was undermining the very person he revered the most. And in that moment, he decided he had to do something completely unthinkable. And this is where the story takes a wild turn. I mean, what can you do about your own innate beauty? His solution was as profound as it was shocking. He made a formal, powerful vow, a conscious act of will. He specifically asked for a body that was still dignified, proportionate, but plump,
a body that no one could ever again confuse with his masters. The entire goal was humility and clarity.
And just like that, the story says his body transformed. Now this is the really important part. This wasn't because he started eating more or stopped exercising. Nope. The tradition says it was a psychophysical transformation, brought about by the incredible power of his own meditative focus. He literally willed his body to change to serve a higher spiritual goal. So where does that leave us? What's the final verdict on the incredible story of Fra Mahakaccayana? What does it all mean? It's pretty incredible when you think about it. The master explainer's greatest explanation wasn't with words at all. It was this one single action. By willingly giving up his famous beauty, he gave the ultimate demonstration of non-attachment, specifically being unattached to your ego and how you look. In this story, even though it's ancient, hits so close to home today, doesn't it? Our whole culture is kind of obsessed with body image, this deep attachment to looking a certain way. Kaccayana offers a totally different perspective. His story isn't about letting himself go. It's about letting his ego go. His transformation was an act of wisdom, using his body as a tool for humility, not for vanity. So let's wrap this up. What are the big takeaways here? Well, first, a person's real value is in their substance, their character, their wisdom, not just their appearance. Second, our bodies don't just have to be for us. They can actually be tools to express bigger virtues, like respect for others. And finally, and maybe this is the biggest one, letting go of our attachment to how we look can be one of the most powerful and liberating things we ever do. And that really brings us to a final question, one for you to think about. Kaccayana gave up something people value immensely, his looks, all for a higher purpose. So it makes you ask, right? What attachment in my life, to a certain image or an idea about myself, could I maybe release for something greater?